Today, we are diving headfirst into this massive and, let's be honest, absolutely wild social experiment that had $250,000 on the line. And the whole point of it? To try and answer one simple question. What is the prime age of humanity? When are we at our absolute physical peak? Is it 18, maybe 25, or is it 40? Seriously, how would you even begin to figure something like that out? Well, okay, this wasn't exactly some peer-reviewed scientific study. The idea came from the mind of one of YouTube's biggest creators, Mr. Beast, who decided to find the answer in probably the most spectacular way you could imagine. So how do you convince 100 different people to push themselves to their absolute limit? Well, you put a life-changing amount of money on the table, $250,000. The setup for this whole thing was, on the surface, pretty simple, but in reality, it was incredibly ambitious. They found one person for every single age, starting with a 1-year-old all the way up to a 100-year-old, and then just had them all compete. So how did it all go down? So let's get into it. How did this massive human experiment actually play out? It all kicked off with a series of brutal, and I mean brutal, challenges that were all designed to find one ultimate winner. The path to that cash prize was a total gauntlet. Seriously, contestants had to survive a massive foot race, a chaotic dodgeball game, a super complex dunk tank relay, a floating soccer shootout, a crazy mannequin endurance test, and then a huge final showdown in a packed basketball stadium. 6 challenges, 1 winner. All right, so the first couple of rounds, they were designed for one thing: pure, swift elimination. This was all about quickly separating the real contenders from everyone else through just raw athleticism. The very first challenge was a simple foot race, but only the first 5 people from each decade could move on. And just like that, boom, the field was cut clean in half. 100 competitors became 50 in just a matter of minutes. Next up was dodgeball. And this is where things got absolutely ruthless. It was pure chaos, but a very clear and frankly brutal strategy started to emerge almost right away among the younger contestants. And the mercilessness was just stunning. As the host put it, they teamed up on the old folks. No mercy whatsoever. It was wild to watch. The younger contestants just worked together to systematically pick off the older generations. The result of that strategy was, well, it was stark. After just 2 challenges that were all about speed and power, every single person over the age of 40 was gone. So the experiment's answer to the prime age was, at least for now, looking decidedly young. Okay, so with the field seriously narrowed down, the competition started to shift. The next few rounds needed more than just raw speed or being able to throw a ball. Now, it was time for strategy, teamwork, and a whole lot of skill. The next challenge was this incredibly complex relay race. Teams had to shoot targets with arrows to dunk their own teammate, who then had to swim to get ladder rungs for another teammate to build. It was a true test of teamwork, and the last 2 teams to finish were eliminated. After that dizzying relay race, and then a super high-stakes floating soccer shootout that came right after it, that massive field of 100 people, it had been whittled all the way down to just 12 remaining competitors. But, that soccer round wasn't just about skill. It had some surprisingly emotional moments. When the 17-year-old contestant got eliminated, he had this really touching heart-to-heart with his 7-year-old friend, who tearfully promised to try and win the whole thing for him. So we went from 12 down to just 6. And the remaining contestants now had to face what was probably the single most grueling challenge yet. This one wasn't about speed. It wasn't about skill. It was just a pure test of willpower. It was called the Mannequin Challenge. Each person started out holding a mannequin that was 10% of their body weight. But here's the kicker. Every 5 minutes, the weight increased by another 10%. It just became this excruciating test of endurance that kept going until only 2 people were left standing. And who were those final 2? Well, this set of a classic David versus Goliath story. On one side, you had contestant 28, a man who was squarely in his statistical, physical prime. And on the other side, contestant number 7, a little kid who had somehow, through pure grit, outlasted 98 other people. And that brought us to the grand finale, held in a massive stadium that was packed with people, all there to see the answer to that one big question: what is the prime age of humanity? The final showdown was this awesome mix of skill and pure luck. The two finalists had to take basketball shots. The first person to make a shot while the other person missed would win the right to open one of 10 briefcases. 9 of them had an X inside, but one held the check for $250,000. Despite the odds, despite the roaring crowd, the 7-year-old stepped up and made this simple, confident declaration that got the entire stadium on his side. He just said, "I'm winning this money." The shootout was incredibly tense. They went back and forth, both making shots, both missing shots. But after several rounds, the 28-year-old finally got his chance. He sank his shot, the 7-year-old missed, he stepped up to the briefcases, and he chose the right one. So the final verdict. The 28-year-old was the official winner, taking home that $250,000, which he said he was going to use to pay off his wife's student loans. But the 7-year-old, the runner-up, who completely captured everyone's heart, he didn't go home empty-handed. For his absolutely incredible performance, he was awarded $10,000. Which really brings us to our final question. The experiment crowned a 28-year-old as the winner, an age that, statistically, should be pretty close to our physical peak. But does that make it the definitive prime age? Or does the incredible journey of a 7-year-old who beat 98 other people tell us that maybe, just maybe, the prime age has a lot more to do with heart than anything else?